Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today we're going to be talking about some bargain watches, I think, that are bargains, but they have a range to them. I mean, they range all the way from $200 up to slightly over 10,000. So you have a range of kinds of watches that people get. And I want to talk about that to some extent and why I think they're bargains and look at them in a little different light. Now, I'm going to start off with the Chanel J12. Now, the Chanel J12 has been around for, boy, I think almost 20 years now. It's not, something, it's not a fashion watch that Chanel popped up with. But it has a history of, because what happened was that early on, Chanel was using cheaper movements and, the design and everything else they were relying on to sell the watch. Well, this year, they had a deal with a company called Kinesi. In fact, they bought 20% of the company that was owned by a combination of self-owned by Kinesi and also by Tudor. And they came up with this movement called the Kinesi Caliber 12.1, and I was very impressed by it. It's a good looking, looks well finished. It doesn't look like something they cranked out cheaply at all. And so I was impressed by that. Now, $5,700 it's about the same price you'd pay for an equivalent Rolex or one of those, the kind of thing. It's not that expensive, relatively speaking. I know $5,000 is a lot of money, but it's compared to some of these other ones, it's a heck of a neat watch, I think. In fact, this was one I was thinking of getting. I've needed a sports watch for a long time. Never really had. I had an overseas for a number of years and loved that overseas. But the overseas is not a sports watch. It's sort of like in my case, it was more like an office watch. I'd wear it to work every day. But this is one that would be the kind of one you'd take out and go have some fun with, and not worry about it too much. It's made of steel and a ceramic that Chanel has. Now, one of the things that's important to understand is it's very interesting. Chanel has its own movements. They worked with someone and developed their own movements, and won, I believe, last year one of the Grand Prix awards. And in part, they call like Chanel 1 and 2, I think. Excellent. But those things are selling for like almost $30,000, and the watches that they had them in 20, 30, something around there. So here's one with for 5,700. I thought, this is something that looked pretty interesting. Okay, so that's one of what I think is a bargain. All right, this next one, the Girard-Perregaux Vintage 1945. I like watches that aren't all the same. Okay, if every watch I had was round, I think I'd be bored silly. Some of my watches are roundy. One I think is a rhombozoid or something. This one is a tonneau shaped, sort of rectangular shape, Moser Henry double hairspring. Okay, so this is a watch I've always liked, and they start off around, I think, $10,000-$15,000, more so in gold and precious metals. But then they drop to some very reasonable prices. Even sometimes you can find them new that they're they've been sitting around the shop and never sold. And I like these watches. I mean, for the shape and the fonts and everything else. And I have the two I have here. I think the chronograph is somewhere from the 90s. Most of the watches that I wanted to look at are from the 2000s or from 2000 to 2019. And this one, I think the chronograph may be a little older, but not much. At worst, it's from the 90s. The other one, the blue one, is one of the more recent ones. They still make that model too. So, and again, it's a heck of a good buy. I mean, because these watches are, like I said, they start around $9,000-$10,000, more so in gold, and but then they get to a very affordable price pretty quickly. And this is one I think that I've always kept an eye on. All right, now these two watches. First of all, I like Breguet. I just like the name. I like the history. I like everything about Breguet. And but I've never bought one. And the Breguet Type 20 Pilot watch is, and with the chronograph to it, it's another sports watch that I've been thinking about. You know, this looks like a pretty good deal. This particular one here is pre-owned and 39.5. It's a nice size. It's not too big. It's not too small. Really nice. Now next to it is the Blancpain, and it's 50 Fathom. Now this is a famous watch like the Type 20 is, and the 50 Fathoms. Now the one that's pictured is I think called a Bath Escape, and but the pre-owned ones that you find, just sort of the 50 Fathoms in general, I found one for about $3,700. These, both of these watches tend to be, you'll find them between about on the low end around $3,500 and then up to $6,000. But I think these are, again, for a sports type watch, are good buys. The actual 50 Fathoms that I looked at that was at a lower price has raised characters on the bezel. Very interesting looking watch. This is the newer one though. I don't think you're gonna find them for that price, but they're ones to keep an eye on. All right. Another one now. This one is somehow I miss this. I like this watch so much. It's a H. Moser Heritage Boucherer Blue Edition, men's. Now they have a woman's edition and it has diamonds around it. Looks totally different, but this looks like a pilot's watch. It looks like a Zenith Big Pilot, and it's a cool looking watch. And of course, it's a H. Moser, so it's a pretty good watch. Now, Boucherer is a retailer, a European one, and they have a lot of shops all over the place. And so H. Moser had one of their things that they call a blue edition. And the blue edition, on the back of the watch, they have something in blue. So I guess they have the rotor and the bridge over the over the balance is blue on this one, plus the back of the strap. But the front, man, is sort of this gray-brown color, and the fonts on this looks like your classic your classic pilot's watch, but it's an H. Moser. It's got an MC200 in it, and which is made by the what's it called, Precision Engineering, which is Moser's development wing. Okay, so that's one I think is a good buy if you can find them, and you can find them. They're a heck of a one. Now these, like I said, they're talking. This is a watch that's $15,000-$20,000, so not a bad deal. Now, this next Moser is one that I found that I got a kick out of. This one I found, this was listed as $99.50, and again, that's the advertised price. And what one you'll end up paying for may be different. Why this one is at a much reduced price, it's very hard to see, but at the small seconds, it says Rolls-Royce Enthusiast Club Edition. All right. And then on the back it says Rolls-Royce Enthusiast Club. Now, if you happen to be a club member or you just like Rolls-Royces, this is great. But if you just want a Moser watch, and this is it's an Endeavor, and I like the Endeavor a lot, the beautiful watch in white gold. I think for $99.50 is a pretty good buy. Some of the things about it that sort of threw me is that it's got the strap is blue, but it's blue satin with back by leather. And I think, what? What is that? I was like, not quite sure. Well, the blue goes with the dial, but I was wondering where they got the idea of blue satin. I used to have a Rolls Royce and belonged to it's called the RROC, Rolls-Royce Owners Club. And we used to do all kinds of stuff. And Rolls-Royce owners they're sort of a fun group. And they would get all kinds of weird stuff for their cars. They'd do anything for those cars. It was, like I said, it was a fun group. And this is one I was thinking, the Enthusiast Club Edition, I think it's like a worldwide one, whereas the RROC seemed to be mostly American. And, like I said, it's I don't think you need a Rolls Royce, but here you have this unusual edition, and you can save a whole lot of money on the Moser. And the way the Rolls Royce, they got the radiator sort of is in there, you can hardly see it. So it's not something that you're pretending to have a Rolls Royce. Simply have a watch that has that sort of, it's almost like a watermark. It's so subtle. That's a good buy, a real good buy. Instead of paying, for a white gold watch with a Moser, it's a heck of a good price. Okay, the final Moser, coming back to what they've done, is that they've dropped the price. They've dropped it significantly. And it's about half price. Now, this is one of their newer ones. It's H. Moser at Sea Pioneer Center Seconds. This is a beautiful watch. It's got a 3-day power supply, power reserve, and it's got the Cosmic Green Fume dial, just like super beautiful. About the only thing about this watch that may give one pause, especially 11,900. It's not a cheap watch, but it's not 20,000. I'll put it that way. But a heck of an investment in like a really top-notch watch. Anyway, this is another one. Now the price there is unnegotiated price from a dealership. You may be able to get a little better deal on that, but I think this one's going to be very popular. Okay, now this final one is something that I have watches that for some reason I want to have. Okay, for example, I wanted to have a watch with an alarm, and my hearing shot. I just had terrible hearing. And so, what do I need an alarm for? I couldn't hear the thing go off anyway. So what I did for $35 on eBay, I found a Russian one, a Poljot or something like that. Works great. I can't hear it though, but when the alarm goes off, it sort of vibrates a little. It's sort of fun to have. Now, just like I said, it's sort of kept in the back drawer, so to speak. But it was neat to have that. Now, I wanted to have a regulator for a long time. And the ones that I just, really nice, a Laurent Ferrier, that's $40,000. It's a beautiful watch, incredibly beautiful. And then Patek Philippe, for some reason, decided to reintroduce their regulator. They had them, then they cut them, and then now they came back again. But that's $51,830. Wow, it's a wonderful watch, but I can't afford that. So what happened was I thought, well, I'll make one. What I'll do is that I'll find a movement, and once I find a movement that has, basically it has little posts at 12 and 6 o'clock for the where I can put subdials, one for the hour, one for the seconds, and then use the center minute hand. But figuring out how to do that, you can't be a pretentious watchmaker like I am and do that. So I've been looking around for one. So I found one, and there's a company called Siegel, and a lot of do-it-yourself watchmakers know about Siegel because you can buy basically what are clones of ETAs and some other ones where you have a lot of information about, and then make a watch using them, sort of like but then you don't tell anybody about it, just like a real watch company. So I found this one called the Regulator Perpetual. And well, it's not a perpetual calendar or anything like that. Perpetual happens to be the name of the watch company, and it's a Chinese watch company. And I had contacted them about the movement. I wanted to see if I could buy one of those Siegel movements. I think it's called a ST1711. Okay, and they said, oh no, they haven't been selling those for a long time. So, okay, but then I saw this watch, and it's a Regulator. It has a deloche on the front. It's a nice looking watch, and then the back, it has a see-through on the back so I can see it. And it's not a it's not a Moser, but it's not bad looking. It's certainly not a Laurent Ferrier or a Patek Philippe. But hey, I want a Regulator. So the guy says, oh, it's $200. So I ordered it. This is, I suppose what it is, sometimes we're not very, watch collectors are crazy. Mechanical watches especially, I think. And, if you have more money than you don't run out of it, you can get anything. But on the other hand, if there's some characteristic in a watch you'd like to have, and you just, I'm not prepared to spend $40,000 or $51,000 or 52 almost on a watch just because it's got a different sort of subdial for each of the hands. But for $200, what the heck? And what I'm going to do is I'll have it and I'll play around with it, and then I want to see how it's made, and I'll take it apart and then put it back together again, and then get the parts and make my own Regulator. That'll be fun. Maybe a lot of trouble, but these are some of the things that you can do instead of going out and blowing a lot of money on a watch. If it's just sort of a quirk that you have, and I've got a lot of them, this might be one of the ways that you can do. So listen, today is sort of a funny, just sort of like, hey, look at that. That's sort of a neat watch, and this is too. And the prices were all over the place. So, from what, $200 up to $11,900. But that $11,900 is half of $20,000 or almost that. Let me know some watches that you think are good buys right now. Some of the ones too, for you Rolex fans, is that, Rolex, you get a basic Rolex for, around $5,000 and a brand new one. But the problem is Rolex doesn't have any in stock because they're so popular. So you could do is get a $200 one while you're waiting for your Rolex or something like that if you're a Rolex fan. Okay, I'd love to hear from you. This is an invitation to subscribe if you like. And until Sunday, when we have our collection reviews, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the Art and Science of Watch Collection.